Do you think that what you do and the nonprofit, do you think it makes a difference?
I do. I think that what we do, especially here in Lexington, mainly because I live in Lexington, I can see that the 4 pantries we run, if they weren't here, there would be about 2,000 families a month that didn't get food. Mm-hmm. But when you work in our pantries, you're going to meet people that, we recently had a mom that came in, worked a full-time job, made decent money, and her son was a drug addict, was in rehab, came home, she cleaned her bank account out.
Wow.
And she was like, I paid for my daughter's school stuff and now I don't have money to put food on the table. And she's a successful woman who was doing what she needed to, and there's an embarrassment factor of coming to the pantry, but there's also this dignity. So we're doing what we need to put a Band-Aid to feed people when they're hungry, and then we let the people that are doing the advocacy efforts to get people well-paying jobs, to get people where they're not in a systematic family. A lot of times it happens in families of needing help, of living in poverty, to fix that problem, let them fix it while we feed people while they need it.
Homelessness in Lexington is a big issue whose effects are far-reached and detrimental to those who are both directly and indirectly affected by homelessness. To grasp just how big this issue is, we looked at student homelessness in this community. It was found that the number of homeless students nearly doubled over 3 years. To add to this number, there is also another population affected by homelessness, which is adults. Adult homelessness is on a rise as well, and just by walking out into the community, you can see the effects of this growing number. Because of the rise of homelessness in students and adults, there are many nonprofits that are created to combat the effects of homelessness. One of these great nonprofits is God's Pantry Food Bank. God's Pantry was founded in 1955 in Lexington, Kentucky. Its mission is to reduce hunger in Kentucky through community cooperation, making the best possible use of all available resources. This nonprofit is the largest food bank in Kentucky and serves 1/3 of the state's population, both geographically and by population. Their objective is to reach everyone who is hungry or at risk of being hungry. To do this, the food bank distributes 26.2 million pounds of food throughout the counties it serves. In addition to this, they have reached 23,469 families, or 65,713 individuals, which is 22% of the population. To sum the nonprofit up, God's Pantry extensively reaches a multitude of people in need by providing them high-quality food, and as a result of this, they improve the quality of lives both in the Lexington community and abroad.
Food is something that everyone needs, and
right.
Food insecurity is something that's so big, and a lot of times from a PR standpoint and getting the messaging across, what touches most people are children and older Americans, but the people that struggle the most are typically the people in the middle. Even college students, there has been a lot of studies of finding that there's a lot of college students that go hungry, and knowing that there's an option to get help at a pantry, like there's an embarrassment factor that we find a lot of times with high schoolers and college students and younger, but you don't have energy if you don't eat. As a kid, we a lot of times focus on kids can't focus in school, they don't want to play, they have attitude and anger issues because they're hungry. And it's simply getting them food and healthy food that they need that can help them.
And at UK and other colleges that there are just a lot of job fairs and career fairs and that kind of thing, but a lot of people, especially for us, a lot of our scholarships have to do with service. We're talking about kind of establishing a service fair and potentially having God's Pantry as an opportunity for people to volunteer. And I think that would be, one of the better options, and I think a lot of people would like to have that kind of opportunity.
I think for nonprofits particularly survive a lot of times on volunteers. We need a lot of volunteer help. For us in particular, we serve, I said, 50 counties in central and eastern Kentucky. We have 4 outlying distribution centers. Because Lexington is our main center, this is really the only place we have volunteers, because we are AIB certified, which means we have to be food safe in what we do. We just can't send any type of food out into our pantries here in Lexington. But with that said, when you have large food drives and 10,000 pounds of food come in, we are 57 employees who have jobs that this organization relies on, so we can't sort through that food. And that's where volunteers come in. And I will say we are very, very lucky to be in a community with UK, because we have a group from UK here almost every week, every Saturday, of students that come in because they need service hours for their sorority or fraternity, or they need them for a class. and they come in and get those service hours, but it helps us a lot. And most of the time what you're doing, we can tell you the direct impact of where that's going. I think almost any nonprofit in Lexington needs help with volunteers and to say, we need you to sort this or do that. And a lot of times it seems like mindless work, but a lot of people don't realize just how much it helps to have that. And I think connecting people with volunteers, the other thing that we're lucky with compared to a lot of organizations in Lexington is we can handle volunteer groups of 35 or 40 people because of the warehouse space we have, as to where a lot of smaller nonprofits can't handle groups that big.
Yeah.
Chances are, most University of Kentucky students do not think about volunteering, even though they can while taking up a very small amount of their time and resources. There are plenty of opportunities for University of Kentucky students to volunteer at God's Pantry. These volunteering programs are all available in Lexington, and this past year, 17,000 volunteers helped to distribute over 30 million pounds of food, so every volunteer counts. All volunteering for God's Pantry requires you to sign up in advance to ensure that they are not overstaffed or understaffed while they are distributing food. The first thing that you can sign up for is a warehouse shift. This is the average thing that a volunteer will do while volunteering for God's Pantry. A warehouse shift lasts 3 to 4 hours, and you can work with your family and friends while sorting and packaging food. You can also volunteer to work the phones, but this is a regular commitment that you will have to make for them. While working the phones, you will be speaking to and directing businesses and clients for God's Pantry. A less frequent volunteer can choose to volunteer for the Commodity Supplemental Food Program in God's Pantry, which is a 2 to 3 hour commitment monthly where you will deliver food to elderly people whom are in need. God's Pantry also needs regular volunteers at their food pantries to, quote, assist clients with pantry check-in, gathering food, and assisting clients with food to their transportation, end quote. There are 4 pantries for God's Pantry located in Lexington, and hours and days vary for when you can volunteer. This past year, there were 17,000 volunteers that took the time to volunteer at God's Pantry. These volunteers gave 53,000 hours of their time helping. If you do the math, that is just over 3 hours of time donated per person. So the more average people that give a little bit of their time, the more people that God's Pantry can reach. There are a ton of opportunities for University of Kentucky students to go out and help the hungry in Lexington, and the types of volunteering for it at God's Pantry vary. So go out, find a way to volunteer that you enjoy, and then do it. Give back to the city, furthering your education.
How do you, public relations wise, how do you find that it's most easiest to reach volunteers?
Well, because of our history and public relation wise, we have, from when we started until now, not had any scandals, not had any bad publicity really. If it is, it's been a misunderstanding that we can easily fix. So volunteers come to us, and sometimes we don't need 30 volunteers, we only need 15, so if people don't show up, it's actually okay. But we're very, very lucky that because of our history and what we do in the community and our visibility, we don't have to recruit volunteers as much. But if we do need volunteers, we actually hit social media most of the time. That's the easiest way.
Right.
I think actually every nonprofit right now is trying to figure out how to engage millennials. I think actually every company is trying to figure that out, because social media doesn't not automatically turn into donors. I can't tell you that a Facebook post has ever brought in a whole lot of money for us.
Right.
As to where typically if we have an interview on the news talking about our need, donations come in. But social media helps people figure out who we are. So social media does help. It makes it easier to get a message across. We're not having to rely on the news or a newspaper or anything like that. But I can't say that right now I can see that it works better than traditional media. It has to be a mix of both.
So what kind of traditional do you feel like is most beneficial for you?
For us, it's news interviews. Getting on the news. We're very lucky in this market that they're very receptive to us and what we do.
So you have larger corporations that donate. So how do you get them to donate?
We actually have a grant writer, so if it comes through with a grant, typically she's written a grant to them, telling them specifically, some grants and things like that come through specifically for kids programs or we bought a new truck. That took a whole lot of work to raise that kind of money to buy a truck and a trailer. But those kind of grants are very specific. Or you just have to make the ask a lot of times. In fundraising, it really is about networking and who you know, and you have to be able to use those relationships and say, hey, I know you work here, this is what we're doing, who can I talk to about this? And it's either the CEO or our development director or someone like that, just pitches, this is what we're doing, this is the money we need, how can you get involved? And a lot of times you over ask, and then they come back with, well, we can do this, and you say, okay, this is what this can do. And that's how it goes.
One, why public relations, and then two, why for a nonprofit?
So public relations, goodness. I could probably trace back doing public relations back to all the way when I was in middle school, and I was in a church youth group, and it was middle school, high school, and we would have to get word out about the events that we were doing. It was a larger church in the community. And I stepped in there like, we want you to do publicity. And I really excelled at it. Tried to go to college for something else. Didn't like it. Switched my major halfway through college. And PR is just always what I came back to. I've done jobs since graduating doing more customer service, more relationship building, which is kind of my skill. I figured out, but doing social media, I did a job for 3 years where I did social media for conferences and traveled. But I always knew that nonprofit is where my heart was, and what I wanted to do was go home every day and knowing what I did made a little bit of a difference in the community of where I lived or doing something that mattered. And PR, talking to people, building those relationships is something that I've always excelled at. And then a friend of mine worked here and told me about the job that came open, and I actually have... when I was younger, my dad actually had to visit at Pantry because his work was on strike, and so I understood hunger, and I understand poverty, and I understand what that was like, and to know that there was a place when my family needed help could go and get help kind of reminded me of why I would want to do this, because you never know what the face of hunger looks like and who's struggling.
It was just a typical day in your work life, so if you want to go ahead and do a brief overview.
My official title is External Relations Manager, but that includes PR, marketing, and everything. So I don't have a typical day. You never know what's going to happen here because my role also works with volunteers and food drives as well as PR in every aspect of our organization. There are some days that I could be in jeans and a t-shirt in the warehouse leading a volunteer group if our volunteer coordinator's out, finding food drive boxes, doing things like that. Or I could be like yesterday at a lunch at Keeneland in a dress and heels and everything. You never know what it's going to look like. But my main goal every day is just to make sure that we're staying on consistent messaging and getting our brand. It's weird to talk about a brand with a nonprofit, but getting our brand and making sure our brand is out there, because we have high brand awareness in Lexington, but in the other 49 counties we serve, we don't. Lexington, because we've been here for 55 years, people know us. But, yeah. So, one of my favorite sayings, and I tell a lot of people this, is you do what you can with what you have where you are. And if you have $1 to give, that dollar is going to do something. And if you have $5,000 to give, it's just as important as that dollar. You give what you can and you do what you can. If you don't have money, you volunteer, you advocate, you do things like that. So that need is always going to be there. But you have to remember that there is some sort of faith in this job that, okay, I'm doing what I can, and there's another part that's going to come in and help fix what we're doing.